20 years ago, I was concerned and frightened and confused about what was going on in the world. I was a filmmaker, and I thought I wanted to make a film about peace. Then I realized there was no day of peace. In fact, I found out that there actually was one, but it didn't have a fixed calendar date. It wasn't a day of ceasefire and non-violence. So I decided I would go on a journey to see if we could establish a day of peace, the 21st of September, a day of ceasefire and non-violence, and have it voted by every government of the world. And we had nothing. We had a film camera. We went on a journey. It was extraordinary. It was very exciting. And very quickly, lots of people got behind it. I met the Dalai Lama. I met Nelson Mandela. I met Amre Musa. I met Shimon Peres. I met Kofi Annan and Mary Robinson. I mean, before you know it, we were going everywhere and meeting everyone. And eventually, after years of work, I'm delighted to say that across the garden here at the General Assembly, that day was unanimously adopted. Once that was achieved, we decided that we would try to prove that that day could actually stop the fighting. And after years of work with the help of the United Nations and UNAMA and UNICEF and WHO and many individuals, we went to Afghanistan. Jude Law traveled with me, who's one of our ambassadors, and a process was led which eventually resulted in the Taliban saying, okay, we won't kill or kidnap anybody on that day. As a consequence of that, UNICEF, WHO, and other UN agencies were able to go into areas that they couldn't normally go to, and 1.4 million children received a polio vaccination. It was an incredible thing. That film was called The Day After Peace. You can watch it on the Peace One Day YouTube channel. So a day of peace had been created. We had proved that it could work in the most complex place of the world. But actually, 95% of the violence that's going to happen today is going to happen in our homes, communities, schools, and places of work. Only 5% of the conflict that happens today is going to happen in an area of conflict. That's very interesting. So therefore, we all have a role to play. We all have a role to play not only in succeeding in terms of the global goals, the 17 global goals, but also in relation to peace. Goal 16, peace and justice. You know, if we can improve the relationships in our families and in our communities, you know, and in our schools and in our places of work, then we will change the world. We are at the forefront of a more peaceful and sustainable world. We all know that. It's up to the individuals. The success of the global goals also relies on that. This is just an image from Afghanistan, you know, when the 4.5 million, because actually it worked for a few years. But now, you know, we've sort of moved into the cyber world. So I want to tell you something about, you know, Peace One Day for the first time ever this year decided that actually there's an area of conflict in the cyberspace in terms of hatred, racism, bullying, extremism, imagery, etc. And for the first time this year, we've tried to decrease negativity and increase positivity by letting individuals around the world know that with their mobile phone and with their social media, they can make a contribution. We know the effects of those 4 areas I just mentioned, whether it's, you know, suicides or mental illness or people just being frightened. At least when I was bullied as a youngster, it stopped when I left school. These days it doesn't. This is an area of conflict. We want to concentrate on it, and over the next few years, we will focus at seeing if we can decrease negativity and increase positivity in the cyberspace, as well as those other 4 key areas of where the violence in our world happens: schools, homes, communities, and places of work. So, you know, I've got a few minutes left, these lightning talks. I'm trying to speak at a lightning pace, which, of course, I'm probably doing all right. But I just want to go on to what our challenges are, that we at Peace One Day, we just completed 20 years of work. I've been to 133 countries. At present today, there are 1.4 billion people that are aware of Peace Day. 1.4 billion people are now aware that the 21st of September is a starting point for their action to a more peaceful and sustainable world. And at Shakespeare's Globe Theatre on Saturday, you just saw the image, we've launched a new 5-year campaign, which is 3 billion people being aware of Peace Day by 2025. We need to institutionalize this day. And there's a simple reason for the institutionalization of Peace Day. We measure 3 things: how many people we expose on an annual basis, which then boils down to how many people are aware of the day, but the most important number of all is what's the behavioral change looks like. What does the decrease in violence look like? Same methodology as a company will use for a billboard on the side of the road. How many people saw it? How many people remember it? And how many people purchased the product as a consequence? That's what we've been doing with the Day After Peace, with the Day After Peace. And a couple of days ago, on the 21st of September, around 19 million people were not involved in violence when they would have normally been. This is epic numbers. On the 21st of September, we know this is the day when more people think about peace than any other day of the year. Fact. We also know it's the day where there's the greatest reduction of violence. And I'm really grateful to partnering with the SDGs on the 20-year celebration with Sting and Mark Rylance and Jude Law and Emily Sondé and Secretary Generals of the Commonwealth and ministers and UN figures. It was amazing. And I'm excited about these next 5 years. So 3 billion people aware by 2025, decreasing violence, peace, free education resources in all 193 member states of the United Nations. We monitored young people in 168 countries just a few days ago. Thousands of young people who are mobilizing and coming together and really leading on the peace process. But what we'd like to see by 2025 is free resources in all 193 member states. And that's not an if or a but or a maybe. That's a complete reality. That is just a strategic process. It requires funds. All of these targets will be delivered. We will institutionalize this day. It will be the day where the children of our world come together as one in the hope that we can lift the level of consciousness around the fundamental issues that we face. Because if we don't, we are not going to survive. We must stand together as one. And the last thing that I'll say is there's two things I'd like to say in 26 seconds. One is goal 16. We need to tell the people of the goal. If we want sustainability, we've got to have peace. You can't have sustainability without peace. And in fact, you can't have peace without sustainability. And finally, we will also try to develop a new piece of technology that creates a new legacy system for the individuals of this world to showcase their positive contribution to humanity's survival. That should be the legacy. I've got some money, okay, that's fine. I did well in school, that's fine. But actually, these are my impact and my values. Judge me for that. Thank you for letting me be here. Thank you very much.